What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new, my name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down this 10-game NBA slate here on DraftKings for Tuesday night. I'll be talking through some of my favorite plays, going over some core plays, building an early look potential lineup for you guys as well. As always, stay updated with the injury news. Hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get right into it. So before I do, if you guys want updated core plays, a whole entire breakdown, you can find that on my Patreon link down below. As you can see here, here's a little quick snippet of it. I'll go over all the injury news as well as I do kind of a breakdown of my thoughts on how I'm going to attack the slates. This is from 2 days ago, as well as the game total, the spread, and then a projected lineup, and then kind of breaking down each and every single team as you guys can see here. Go through all and then go with like the core plays that I'm going to be rocking with for that day. We'll add PrizePicks soon for the NBA as well. So you can find that whole entire write up for pretty much every single slate. I do apologize, wasn't able to get out a video or a breakdown for the past 2 days, just super busy. So I won't be able to put out every single day, but 95% of the days I'll be able to put it out if you guys want that more in depth breakdown and updated core plays. But yeah, jumping into this 10-game slate here, pretty decent size after today was, I think, a 4-game slate tonight. So jumping into this first game here, we have the Miami Heat versus the Charlotte Hornets. Great game environment here for the Heat. Tyler Hero is obviously still out. Jimmy Butler is back, good to go here. So kind of down plays the value for me and kind of Bam as well. Jimmy and Bam are both priced about right. Bam's coming off a few huge games there without Jimmy. So I think he's priced about right. Same with Jimmy Butler. I mean, it's a fantastic matchup, but you're not really getting these guys at a discount. So they're more, a fine secondary plays for me. I do have a good amount of interest in Kyle Lowry here. With Jimmy back, it's not he's going to be super aggressive, but he gets around 10 shots. As you can see, he still has very, very solid upside. So I think he's probably my favorite play right now for the Heat is going to be Kyle Lowry. I think Duncan Robinson's a pretty decent play here as well. Kind of a little bit of an outlier there when it comes to the peripheral stats, but still, if he hits his shots, he can go for 35, 40 plus, as you saw that last game. If he misses his shots, as you can see from 2 games ago, he can easily go for 19 or 14. So that's kind of the ceiling and floor that you can get from Duncan Robinson. So I think he comes in at a solid price tag there at 5.4K. Do you have a good amount of interest in Josh Richardson? Wasn't too aggressive without Jimmy, without Tyler. You would think Josh Richardson would come in and shoot the ball a little bit more, and he really didn't. So they're at 4.9K. He did hurt us back a little bit, but he should be good to go. I think he's just a solid play right now for me. Just more of a secondary option. With Jimmy back, it does take out some of the interest for Jaime Jaquez, Drew Smith, and some of these other value plays like Highsmith. Highsmith should start once again, but as you can see, he's got a very, very low floor, solid ceiling. I think he'd be a fine value play there at 4.3K. He'd probably be the only one I get to out of these cheaper value plays. And then I'd probably just stick with Josh Richardson and people above that. Otherwise, don't have a lot of interest. With Kevin Love, it just the minutes are just not there. Not really sure why. And that's really it right now. I mean, Kevin Love is dusty, but still, I mean, he's probably the best off the bench right now with Caleb Martin still being out. But yeah, not a lot to like here for the Heat besides kind of Lowry and Duncan Robinson and Richardson for me. Those kind of cheaper secondary options. For Charlotte, Lamelo, I can't even talk. LaMelo Ball priced about right for me. 10.4K. Having a very, very solid 4 games in a row there. Finally shooting the ball well. Gets those peripheral stats. So I think it's a pretty decent spend up. I don't think many people will go to him in this matchup. Kind of a slower paced game, but still, LaMelo Ball has been very, very good. Gordon Hayward is questionable, but he should be good to go. As you can see, he does have a pretty high ceiling. 3 games ago and then 2 games ago. And then the last game, obviously, did not do the best there against the Knicks. Did get a little bit hurt. So he should be good to go. Doesn't come in at a great price tag. Rozier is still out. So obviously, that's just a bump to LaMelo. PJ's priced about right for me. Mark Williams is one of those guys who probably looks the most appealing if you can stay out of foul trouble, as you can see, versus the Washington Wizards. He went for a 2020 game there. So he kind of has that upside. It's just one of those things. Can he stay out of foul trouble? Going against Bam, not the best matchup. But still, I think he's a solid secondary option. Brandon Miller should start here. Did hurt his ankle there last game, only played 10 minutes. Was off to a pretty good start there, as you can see. 10 minutes, 5 of 6, 15 fantasy points. So one of those plays that comes down to, can he hit his shots? If he can, I think he's a solid play there. Not like the best price tag, but still does have some decent upside. And for value, Theo Maledon, I think is an okay value play, 4,400. He comes in not that aggressive, but he has seen decent minutes. JT Thor, kind of there for me. And then Richards should get the backup center run. I actually don't mind going to him. He'd probably be my favorite play right now just because of that potential foul trouble to a guy like Mark Williams. Indiana, Philadelphia here. Uh, Once again, a rematch of two of the top 5 guards in the league, I'd say, with Tyrese Halliburton and, Tyrese Halliburton and, Tyrese Maxey here. Battle of the Tyreses. They're both fantastic, so I think Halliburton's a fantastic spin to play. Can't go wrong with him. Turner is, I think, a very strong secondary option. The foul trouble, this risk is there guarding Embiid, but if he can stay out of it, he should kinda be that second option for them, and he does have massive upside there, especially with the blocks. So I do have some interest in here in Turner. Rest of the team, just kinda there for me, secondary options, like Bruce Brown does have, an okay ceiling, but he's just very not very aggressive. Matherin's very up and down, as you can see. He does have a solid ceiling, but then he has a very low floor. Once again, it's just really hard to get to any of these wings with confidence. It's not like one of them super cheap that you can take a shot on where you feel fine, because it's like they're all priced about right. So it's like Jalen Smith, as you can see there, has a massive, massive ceiling, with at the same time has a pretty low floor. His production is not a guarantee, but still, I think he's the best option of all these like kind of bench and secondary options. Is probably going to be Jalen Smith there. Obi's getting cheaper, but he's just not seeing a ton of minutes. So it's really hard to trust any of these secondary options for me personally right now. I really don't suggest getting into any of them. Just sticking kind of with the main two guys there. And Buddy Hield, once again, the minutes are just not great. So not a lot to like there for the Indiana side. They're just rotating a ton of people in and out. For the Philadelphia 76ers side, Embiid looks fantastic here in this matchup. I mean, he's been doing great. Same thing with Maxey. They still haven't raised his price tag. It's still under 9K. I don't get it. It's just, what are we doing, DraftKings? I mean, that's just a lock for me. I'm sure he's going to have a bad game one of these games. But I mean, right now, the man is going absolutely off. So I'm going to continue riding that hot streak there. Obviously, it makes sense if you want to fade him after a 50 bomb. You could, but still, 8,900 for a guy with that usage is just insane. Too low of a price tag for me. Tobias Harris, I think, makes for a very strong secondary option. The minutes should be even better there, with the unfortunate injury of Kelly Oubre. Praying he gets better real quick, because he was off to a really good start there for them. But yeah, with him out, they did start Batum, who is out here due to personal reasons. So it's looking like we're going to get some decent value here for the Philadelphia side. I wouldn't say the best, but still decent. Covington should probably move into the starting lineup here. If that happens, obviously he becomes a very solid player there, 3,400. A guy who's not going to be super aggressive offensively, but should do a little bit of everything. So he could probably at least get to 15 fantasy points, if not closer to 20, which would be really, really solid there at 3.4K. I expect, some more minutes to go to. I think it's just be heavy minutes for Embiid, Tobias, Maxey. Melton should get a good amount of run as well. And then obviously with Covington probably starting, then off the bench, we'll see Pat Bev, Paul Reed there. We'll get some minutes, 3,500. They'll mix in some Korkmaz, some Springer. I guess you could take a shot on Korkmaz, a shooter, if he knocks down his shots. Sure. If you wanted to get super, super contrarian, I'm sure they'll dust off Daniel House as well. But nothing too crazy. I'd say if you're looking for an absolute dart throw, I'd say take it on either Daniel House or Korkmaz. But otherwise, I just kind of stick with going to Covington and going to one of the three main guys there for Philly. For the Atlanta side here, Trae Young is questionable. Obviously, if he misses, DeJounte Murray would become a fantastic play there. Same thing with Bogdanovich, whether he starts to come off the bench. And for point guard, they do have Patty Mills. Maybe he gets to start there. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, if Trae Young misses, we're going to want to load up on DeJounte and whoever starts in place of Trae, and then really, really like Bogdan off the bench there, if that's kind of how it shakes out. Obviously, if there is Trae, Trae's a pretty solid spend up. DeJounte's kind of there as a risky secondary option that I don't mind getting into. Jalen Johnson still been very, very solid until that last game there. So I don't mind running it back to him. As you can see, he does have 40 plus upside. Capella, just not seeing above 30 minutes. Don't think there's a need to get to him. Bogdan, kind of that score off the bench. Looks pretty solid there at 4.9 as like a secondary option. And obviously, if there's no Trae Young, looks really, really good there. Hunter, just more so of a contrarian play there. Kungwu, a solid option there off the bench, usually pretty productive. Obviously, pretty foul prone. Not seen. He's splitting minutes at center with Capella. So it's not like they're going to get extended run unless one of them's in massive foul trouble. And then Bay's actually been decent off the bench, but nothing too crazy there. So big news there is Trae Young. For the Detroit side here, Cade Cunningham's very, very cheap at 8,000 here. So that's very, very intriguing to me, because he's a guy who leads this team in terms of usage and minutes. As you can see, almost 40 minutes a game for him. So at 8,000, almost 20 shots, almost 40 minutes a game. It's very hard not to like him here in this matchup against Atlanta. Asar Thompson just been super, super productive when he's out there. As you can see, the rebounds, it's insane. Dude's averaging a double double there, and he just can't hit a shot. Imagine if he could hit a shot. This dude would be very, very solid. So I think he's still a fine play there. Jalen Duren is out. So we'll probably get Marvin Bagley starting here. 5,000. I actually don't mind him here in this matchup. He's a foul prone guy, but obviously Capella, Okongwu, not the best offensively in terms of like drawing fouls. So I do have some interest here in Bagley. Minutes aren't a guarantee. He should start, but as you can see, he saw one game above 33 minutes. The rest, he's kind of struggled in the spot starts. Can't even talking too fast. But don't want to make this video like 10 hours long. So trying to get this out there to you guys. I actually do like Stewart here. Good amounts. He should see 30 plus minutes. A guy with double upside. Sasser, a little bit too pricey for me now that Burks and Ivy are back. Moving down to those two. I mean, Hayes, if you want to ride the hot streak here with him, you can. But as you can see, last game kind of came back down to earth after a pretty solid streak there of like 4 games in a row. But yeah, I really like Alec Burks here. Super, super efficient, super productive when he's out there. Should see 20 plus minutes. So I think he actually is a very solid play there, 4,600. Probably the second favorite play for me. Tied with Marvin Bagley, but I think Cade's still going to be number one for me. And as always, you could take it, absolute dart throw on James Wiseman if you think Bagley gets into some foul trouble. They could definitely go to Wiseman. For Orlando here, Paulo comes in a decent price tag. Nothing too crazy there. He's been doing a little bit better recently. Franz, kind of priced about right for me. Nothing really stands out to me in terms of this team. Fultz is out. So I'm assuming they start Anthony Black once again, who in place of Fultz, as you can see, these past 2 games, 30 minutes, 33, but he just didn't shoot the ball 6 times and 7 times. He's productive, but you'd like him to shoot the ball a little bit more. So I think it's a solid play, not like a lock and load, but still pretty solid play there. It's a bump to obviously Franz and Paulo. So actually, I do like him a little bit more now because we saw those, previous games there. Franz went for back-to-back 40-point games there. And then Paulo went for back-to-back 50 bombs there when there was no Fultz the last time. So actually, I do have a good amount of interest. These two should run the offense kind of point forward. So good amount of interest in both of them. I think Suggs is a decent, intriguing play there. And then obviously Anthony Black is a decent option there, 4,400. Off the bench, we should see Mo Wagner splitting center minutes with Goga, who still hasn't seen above 23 minutes. So I'd still rather go to Mo. Isaac, seeing a little bit more run recently, 16 and 17. Productive guy when he's out there. So his prices come up, but still I think he's in play. And that's really it for me. Moving on to Brooklyn here. Cam Thomas, obviously still out there. And then Ben Simmons is out once again. So I think it kind of goes back to the offense that we saw last year here for Brooklyn, as you can see from last game, where it's going to be the Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie show. I think they're both a little bit too cheap here for their price tags and kind of their usage. Both, like both a lot. Lonnie Walker should see decent minutes off the bench. Only saw 14 in that last game, but they're going to need his scoring. And I do have, interest in Claxton here. If he's not on a minutes limit, it looks like he's probably on a 30-minute limits right now, but still. Very, very productive guy when he's out there. So I do have a good amount of interest in all 3 of these Brooklyn players. DFS, Cam Johnson, Royce O'Neal, I think more secondary options. I do like the fact that Cam Johnson's now off a minutes limit. Should shoot the ball a ton. So actually have a good amount of interest in that whole starting lineup for Brooklyn right now. They should all see a ton of minutes and a ton of usage. I don't really like the secondary plays right now. Moving on to the Spurs here. Victor, price about right for me. You guys know it's the same breakdown for Victor every single time. Price about right. Always going to be super low owned because that price tag, and he just has a wide range of outcomes right now just because he's still getting his feet under him. Keldon Johnson is questionable. Obviously, if he's out, it will kind of open up some value here depending on who they start. They could get weird to start a smaller guard, but obviously if they start a guy like Seti or Doug, they'd be decent value. But obviously if they're good to go and this whole team's good to go, nothing really stands out to me. I do think Vassell comes in at a decent price tag, pretty score independent, but he's going to run the offense. Same thing as Zach Collins. Foul prone minutes aren't always a guarantee, but coming in at pretty solid price tags. And I guess Keldon would be a fine secondary play. So more so just secondary plays for me. But if there's some value that opens up due to Keldon being out or Zohan being ruled out or even Trey Jones being ruled out, I'll have updates on my Patreon link down below. For OKC, SGA has just been fantastic here. Just an absolutely fantastic matchup. So I don't mind riding the hot streak with him. I'm sure he'll be super, super popular. One of the worst defenses in the league right now is the Spurs. Chet versus It's going to be one of the tallest matchups ever. Chet versus Victor should be fun to watch. Kitty Jalen Williams price is a little bit too cheap. Coming off a great game there, 31 points, but still more so of a secondary play. Yeah, I mean, nothing really stands out to me here in terms of the OKC Thunder. Really, besides SGA, I guess Chet is fine to me, but otherwise, not a ton of interest right now. Moving on to Dallas here. Luca priced about right. Kyrie finally had a solid game there. Actually, back to back games where he's done very solid. So I guess he's more so of a contrarian play, like I said. Tim Hardaway will come off the bench, play mid 20s minutes, and chalk. You don't really feel great about any of these secondary options besides Kyrie there for the Dallas Mavericks, but still, we've seen him have a ceiling if he's out of foul trouble. It does feel like Grant Williams is a little bit too cheap here. Just had a terrible game there, 0 points, 21 minutes. Yeah, not the best there for Grant Williams after few bad games in a row there. They have been looking to Jarrett Jones Jr., who's doing a little bit better, but still, you just don't feel great about all of these Maverick guys. They're just very, very not productive compared to Luca. It's really just the Luca show. So it's hard to get to those guys with confidence right now for me. For the Pelicans side here, Zion, Ingram do have a good amount of interest in both these guys. They should lead the offense here for the Pelicans. So yeah, I do like a good amount of Zion and Brandon Ingram right now. CJ still out. J Val is always going to be a very solid contrarian, risky GPP option just because of that upside, but the minutes have not been great this season so far. Hawkins should start there with no CJ McCollum. Very, very up and down, very score independent there for me. So he's a fine play. Herb Jones is questionable. Obviously, if he misses, whoever starts the place of him is very solid value, whether that's Dyson Daniels, whether that's Matt Ryan, whether they get weird and go with JRE. They're still very depleted off the bench there. So all three guys should still already see minutes. But they do have Najee Marshall back. Saw 14 minutes. He's a very, very productive guy when he does play. So I actually do have a good amount of interest in him there. At almost a flat minimum price tag is a very solid value. So we'll throw him in for right now. Um, but obviously, if he's on like a hard 15 minutes limits, I don't think he's a must play or really a need to get to. But if that was just kind of first game back, we're just going to play him 15 minutes. I do think he can get extended run. So we're going to go with him for right now. And then we'll take this off. We're going to throw Cam Johnson back in. I don't know if we can. Yeah, let's just throw Cam Johnson in. And then we'll go Covington, throw him at center. Just fit those guys in there. And then moving on to the last few games here for Portland. Obviously, the big news right now is Malcolm Brogdon is out. So we should get Shaden Sharp, Grant, Ayton, Mays, and Thibault, who started that last game there. Mays had a really, really solid game. 2 back-to-back games there with a double-double. So, price about right for me, 6.7K. But, he should have some decent upside once again. I still have a good amount of interest in Sharp there. Grant's fine. Ayton's very up and down. Hard to trust him there. But it's a good matchup. Good game here. Good game environment. So I do like targeting these Portland guys. I'd still, as I said, feel safest with Thibault, or excuse me, with Sharp. But those other guys do have a decent amount of interest from me. Off the bench, we're going to see a mixed bag of a bunch of different people. I guess you can land on these guys for value if you want. But once again, don't feel great about them. I'd rather pay down for like cheaper value for a guy like Covington and Marshall, and then because they're cheaper, right? I mean, obviously they're not going to see as many minutes, but they're cheaper. They're probably more productive, and I just rather pay up at different spots. So Utah for me, Laurie, Jordan Clarkson. We kind of know we kind of know what's going to happen with him. Laurie's going to lead this team in terms of usage. Very solid contrarian spin up play. Clarkson's very boomer bust. Either he's the shots, he's going to get you probably 40 plus, or he's going to miss the shots, get you like 20. That's the risk with him. Comes at a decent price tag. Collins is questionable. So this is kind of big news here because if he misses, we'll probably get Kelly Olynyk starting, who'd be pretty much a lock there at 5.1K for me. Obviously, if Collins is in, Collins would be an okay play. I still think I'd have a good amount of interest in Kelly Olynyk, even though he's only seen about 20-ish minutes the past few games there with no Walker Kessler. So I probably will build around the fact that John Collins might be out, and we might get Kelly O starting. Obviously, we'd have to move some people around. Let's just move Maxey for now. Since he's one of the first games, we'll put him in the first point guard slot there because it opens up the utility spot. But yeah, going to be building around the fact that there potentially might not be Walker Kessler. Kente George, seeing some solid minutes, been getting the start, so 5.3K. I actually have a good amount of interest in him there. Off the bench, we'll see some Sexton, Abaji, Horton Tucker. Nothing crazy here. Don't really think there's a need to get to any of these value guys. It really comes down to just, they really need to hit their shots. Otherwise, they're going to screw you. Moving on to the Clippers here. They've been absolutely god awful, but, I think it's getting to some intriguing price tags for a guy like Kawhi there. Um, Even Russ Westbrook here at 7K. Some intriguing price tags, but still just decent contrarian options for GPPs. Zubac there, mid 20s minutes. He's kind of like a J Val play. Like if they get the minutes, they have massive upside, but that's just the biggest issue is like, will they get the minutes? That's the risk with clicking on them. And that's really it for me. Bones minutes are all over the place. Same thing with Powell. I guess he's probably the safer of those two guards off the bench there. I mean, Man's back, so he's eating into those minutes. He should play about mid 20s, so I guess he's an okay value there. Nothing too crazy for Denver. Jamal's still out, so everyone priced about right for me. Really no standouts. Reggie Jackson still. His minutes have gone up a little bit there, so probably the most interest for me would probably be Reggie Jackson there. But that's really it. Moving on to Minnesota. Right now, absolutely love Anthony Edwards. Great game environment here. Coming off a great game there against them last game. So a nice back to back there for them. Towns, I think, is very intriguing here. Back to back 50 bombs from him. Gobert, okay play. Conley's there for me. No, Naz Reid, do have some interest in him off the bench there. He usually is pretty productive. And that's really it. Don't really have a ton of interest in these secondary options. Right now, it's just kind of the main two for me, and maybe Naz Reid. For Golden State, the big news here is Steph, questionable. Obviously, if he misses, they'll probably start Chris Paul, who'd be fantastic play there at 6.1K. And obviously, a good amount of interest in guys like Wiggins and Klay Thompson step off offensively. And then we can get to some of these values off the bench there. So that's kind of the big news. Obviously, if there is Steph, I actually do have some interest in Klay Thompson. He's been god awful so far this season, but we know he has those big play abilities with hitting the shots, hitting the threes. So I actually do like taking a dart throw on him tomorrow night. So good amount of interest in him. Good amount of interest in Draymond Green. The minutes haven't been great the past 2 games, but still, he's been in a lot of foul trouble. If he stays out of it, he can go for 30, 35, 40 plus. So probably my second favorite play behind Steph if Steph does play. Obviously, hopefully we get that news kind of midday. Otherwise, I'll update you guys on my Patreon. Last game here, late night hammer, Memphis versus the Lakers. Memphis has been god awful. Desmond Bane's finally reached 9K. I still think he's a solid play. Same with Jaren Jackson Jr. Smart, very intriguing here, 6.2K. Has been pretty bad here just in terms of fantasy points. Kind of in the start there, but still should see 30 plus minutes. Does have some solid upside if he hits a shot. So I actually do like him a good amount. Biombo, 6K, priced about right. So if you can stay out of foul trouble, as you can see, he does have some solid upside, but he will be guarding Anthony Davis, so that is going to be very, very risky. Tillman is also questionable. So if Tillman's good to go, it will bump down Biombo, and Biombo would not be in play for me. Luke Kennard finally priced up to 5K. Not going to get there anymore right now. Too pricey for me. I'd rather get to Santi, whose minutes are a little bit all over the place, but obviously if there's foul trouble too, like a Tillman or Biombo, Santi's going to get that backup run. And they have been starting Gilliard. So if he starts again, I would have interest in him. Not going to shoot the ball a ton. Kind of be like an Anthony Black play. So it really comes down to ownership. Like if a ton of people are going to go to Gilliard, I'd rather take a shot on Anthony Black for the Magic. They're pretty much the same price tag, and they have the same role where they're not going to shoot the ball. They're really out there just to get assists, rebounds, and kind of get some steals and blocks if they can. That's really it. Zaire will play, David Roddy will play, but nothing too crazy there. And then moving on to the Lakers here. So for the Lakers side, Anthony Davis questionable, but he should be good to go. And then LeBron James did miss that last game, but it looks like he's still questionable. I'd expect him to be good to go for this game here. With him back, obviously, not really much stands out to me. Everyone's kind of priced about right with Reeves coming off the bench there. But obviously, if LeBron misses, Anthony Davis becomes a really, really good play. D'Lo, Reeves, Hachimura, Wood, even Reddish, they all become pretty solid plays there if there's no LeBron, because they've been given a ton of people minutes, and a lot of people have been stepping up and shooting the ball a ton with no LeBron James there. But obviously, if there's LeBron, don't really have a ton of interest in these secondary options from me right now. And that's going to be the breakdown, guys. So obviously, I know kind of quick here, a little bit, it's 23 minutes still, but yeah, I'll have a little bit more in-depth breakdown on my Patreon. Obviously, there's a decent amount of news in terms of the spin-ups here to kind of build around. As I said, still probably going to build my lineup around the fact that Kelly O might get the start there if there is no John Collins. So keep updated with me on my Patreon link down below. But to finish off this lineup here, let's go to small forward real quick and kind of fill out this lineup. So as I mentioned, I do have a good amount of interest here in Brooklyn right now, just because their rotation is very tight. We're kind of getting that same offense that we got last year with them. So I do think right now, obviously said, going to build around the fact that Kelly O might be out. So going to go towards these later games and just, hopefully we get the news before them so I can switch off to Kelly O if he does get the start. But yeah, I do like this Brooklyn team a lot not right now to target. Going to throw Mikal Bridges in there as well. And then for the guard spot here, 6,700 left over. Let's see who we can get to. You can get to Mays if you want a piece in that Utah game. He's had very solid upside. You can get to Clarkson, Reeves if you wanted to, Vassell, Smarts, Paul, potentially build around the fact that there might be not Steph Curry, Miller. So we get some good options here. I'd say right now, for the sake of the video, I'm going to build around the fact that might not be Steph for that game tomorrow. So we're going to put Chris Paul in there. So that's an early look build. Do have a ton of injury news to kind of keep updated with. I'm going to go to bed because I'm very tired, can barely talk, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Hit that like button. Peace.